Okay, well, so I ended up getting not the camera adapter for the tripod, which I'm still going to get. I got a little tripod that holds my camera, and it also has a Bluetooth thing so I can start it off and on from, I think it's at 20 meters. But I'm old. They didn't have cell phones when I was coming up. Shoot, you know what we did? We'd have to do a collect call from the school, from the payphone of the school, and when they did person to person, you'd have to say your name. Well, when we were saying our name, what we were really saying is, wrestling practice is over. And then mom would know to come and get you, or your brother would know to come and get you. So this technology, I'm catching up to it, but not really fast. Anyway, so I think I can get better shots now of the things I'm doing. And this pipe cabinet's going together, but as with what usually happens, remember a week ago when I said no more saws? 3 more. They're in really good shape, and I didn't have one, you know, in this color. That's what my wife says when we end up with another cat, right? Now, they were a buck a piece. I couldn't pass that up. One of them has a cracked handle, so I'll use parts off of it to fix one of the other ones that was missing a couple of those fancy screws. But we'll go ahead and we'll send those on to somebody else that can use them. I don't need that many saws. Also got some sandpaper that was just really cheap. Somebody was just closing their shop, had a bunch of stuff they wanted to get rid of. So we put the pipe rack together, but this is just the way it works with me. I've already had to fix the fan because air that you wear, humidity's definitely creeped up. So we got that going on. I am going to get to the pipe rack, but before I get to the pipe rack, I got to go put 4 locking caster wheels on another bench that's on the other side. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll be back to do this. I'll see you then. Some of you may be wondering why I have my smaller table saw up here. I'd love to tell you it's just out of convenience. It's not. My big table saw died, the one I just got. First I thought it was the motor. It would hum and then throw the circuit, and it did that several times, and I checked it. There's, you know, free play. It wasn't binding or anything. So I blew all the sawdust off because there's a safety switch inside the motor that sometimes will prevent it from spinning if there's a problem. That didn't do it. And then came to the back of the motor right here. There's this hump that sits there. And it has this little bitty electric capacitor. It's a starter capacitor. And this little starter capacitor has given out. It's about a $15 part, but it stores up the energy because it takes a lot to get a saw like that going. And so it just gave up. It's, you know, they don't last forever. They're kind of like a light bulb. They eventually burn out. And so I've got that on the way. But in the meantime, I went to buy another saw, thinking maybe I could get have a spare motor and maybe another starter capacitor with it. And yeah, everything works. And then I get there, and not only it was too good to be true. I knew it when I saw the price, but I took it anyway because it has a fence to go across. So, and it is still a good saw. It's older, heavier, but it needs a motor, so it didn't really fulfill what I needed it to, but I mean, it was cheap enough I could sell it for scrap iron and make my money back. Anyway, so it's not that I haven't wanted to put the pipe cabinet together, it's just one thing after the next. And then kind of had a God moment, at least I thought I did, down by Cape. The guy has a buffing machine, 35 bucks. And as I'm going down, I kind of in the back of my head, he was asking 50 for it. I offered 35 and he said he'd take it. Kind of something in the back of my head, just kind of God, that's what I'm assuming it was. I hope it wasn't a different spirit. Said, just give him 40. And I thought, okay, 40 must be important for this guy. And I get there, he'd already sold the machine. So he didn't get 35, he didn't get 40. And I'd mentioned it to him, and he's basically said, well, maybe God was just giving you the chance to be obedient. Like a ton of bricks. That very well could have been what it was. That's it for now. I've taken some of these clamps off already, just so I could work around it easier. And then these are actually just kind of clamps used to hold the pickup bed capper on, and they come in handy in a pinch to do stuff like this. And this is what I like about them. I can take the impact tool with the 9/16 and make short work of taking them off. Now I have some antique brass hardware and some hinges that match that antique brass, although I'm not certain the hinges are going to be big enough. And I'm going to eventually, just like I'm eventually for this pipe cabinet, I'm eventually going to build a set of doors, and I might even put glass in them, but mainly I want doors on it. Otherwise, I'm defeating the purpose putting them out on the rack, because it's a barn. It's a woodshed. You know, everything's going to get dusty and dirty. So I think maybe glass so you can see through it. Might even backlight it a little bit, but we're not to that step yet. But that'll help protect it from dust. I'm cheating a little bit. Find the center of my circle. On each end. I'm using the handy template to help find center. I don't need it to be perfect, I just need it to be perfect enough. Use 2 1/4 as a space, so half of 2 1/4 is 1 1/8. I'm going to go out here farther, I'm going to go to 1 1/4. That's where I want the sides and this is good enough. Side and 1 1/4 from the center, the side, the center of the circle. And that will put it here. That's where the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to be able to cut some of this board off. One of those warnings, this is how I do it. Probably not the way you should do it. You should use all the equipment safety guards. This one doesn't have those. These are safety glasses though. And especially if you're younger, you should wear hearing protection, because if you don't, you end up with these, which you can turn them off, and then they act like an earplug. So one trick I've learned, once I have the lines for the holes, I just put the speed square up against it, line the boards up. Now I can come back here, and I know I'm going to cut it. It may not be perfect, but it'll be perfect enough that I can sand it when I stack them all together, which is what I will do next. Stack it all together and sand it so that all three of the shelves, well, really it's the top and two shelves, are all exactly the same size. It just helps out in the long run. Have them all lined up. They're all even on this end. Just going to take the palm sander, come down here with some 80 grit, and I'm going to sand them so they're all right on the money. Keep watching that, but you get the gist of it. You just sand it down until that end's even, then both ends are even. So a little extra bit that I did to sand this so that it's perfectly the same length, really will help later when we go to try to put it together and square everything up. Don't know if we can see it. Down at the other end, I've applied the blue and the red clamp or corner clamps. They help hold this corner so they're both 90 degrees. And then I can tack it together and then move to the other end and do the same thing. There we go with my Steven Spielberg moment again. So I think I just took a picture instead of a video, but basically I glue with Tight Bond 3 and I staple to the ends. So this other board isn't just for thickness, it actually gives me the space between my shelves. So they're 6.5. And I will continue. And so now I've used these corner clamps again for these two, what will be the upper corners. And I put a little bit of glue in there, and so I'm using the corner clamps just to help hold them together while I get ready to tack them in with those brad nails. So you see this board here on the side runs the full length, 2 spacer boards, and once that glue sets and all these brad nails together, we'll hold all of that together as one piece. Make it nice and strong. Now I'll put some stuff in the middle too that helps strengthen it, and then once the back goes on it, it'll be really solid. You might notice that on the ends, this is what will be the top. These boards are a little bit taller than what you might think they should be. So not on the front, but on the back, I'm going to have them taller also, because that way I can use this for a little bit of a shelf. Although where I'm going to place it, it's like Raccoon Central. They love running across this beam right here, and they just go zipping across. As a matter of fact, I had to make sure that 2-man saw that's hanging up there is all the way up against it, because we didn't want them to miss and get one of their feet hurt or something. So anyway, that was the purpose behind that. I won't film this, but these are the 4.5-inch spacers that the pipe rest will probably help if you can see, that the pipe rest will set on, and they go right here, and I'll glue and tack those in also. And again, as it goes together, it just makes it all stronger. Now, just like we cut those shelves down, we're gonna have to cut these pipe rests down too, and we do it the exact same way. You didn't get to see this part, but when I cut this down, I get it close, and then I take just a hair off each side because I want it to fit all the way across, but I don't want it so tight that it bows that wood. Now, a lot of what I'm doing here, because it's cedar, it's real soft wood, it's light, easy to work with. If I was doing any of this with oak, I wouldn't even be marking it with a pencil. I'd be taking a razor, like a box cutter knife or something, and scoring it so I can see exactly where I want it. Because that stuff's hard. You mess it up, it's messed up for good. Sounds like my chicken alarm's going off, so I'm gonna have to go put the birds up. Yeah, chicken alarm's definitely going off. I think you can kind of see what it's starting to look like. Now this is the back, and I put spacers every 9 pipes. There's a little space, and it's a little space. It just doesn't take up that much room. It won't interfere with anything. And I would have loved to have spacers here to help support this, but I'm not going to need them because I'm going to have that back is going to hold it, so it'll be perfectly fine. You can see I put some glue where that backer board's going to touch. I've only got so much time to get it on there, so this is going to be pretty straightforward. Put the board on, tack it in place, move to the next board. Try to put the best side facing in. That's the gist of it. I'll just mark and cut this last one. cut it on the saw and put it in place. Last board in place. That is how we make a pipe cabinet. Now, there's other things I want to do to it. I'll probably clear coat it with something, even though it's cedar. I mean, it's not going to really need any protection. And I'd like to put doors on the front at some point. It'll still need to sit overnight and dry a little better, but this will give you a little idea what it'll look like when it's hanging up, maybe, if I can get my hands out of the way. So it will be a big one. It will hold 54 pipes. Has a little bit of a shelf up here, like I said, for the raccoons to run across. And I would like to build probably 4 doors that will cover the front. I'm not even 100% sure exactly what I want to do with that yet. But I'll have to rearrange a little bit because I envision that pipe rack hanging here, but that means I've got to take my outlet and move about, roughly a foot that way. And I've got the wire to do it, but then this, the bottom of it will hang flush with this, and the top will be above this somewhat. But there we go, 54 pipe rack or cabinet, rustic cedar, reuse, reclaim, why waste good wood? What do you guys think? Did it turn out good? I guess what really matters is what do I think? I like it. It'll be functional, and I think the rustic cedar actually works well. And this was all from cedar pickets off of my sister's fence in Texas, and she had to replace a bunch of them, so she was just going to throw them away, and I was like, hang on. And we loaded them up in the back of the truck and just brought it back. I was going to make birdhouses out of them, and there's still a bunch out there I could, but I've kind of left them set out, and some of them are getting a little bit too far gone, so I'll have to pick through them and try to save the ones I can save. But I'm sure we'll be making some birdhouses out of these too. And I get to go put the ducks up all the way because they're only in their pens. So for tonight, that's it from the woodshed.